Hey guys, I'm usually making videos for the kids, but I wanted to talk to the adults just for a minute. As you may know, my dad, granddad, and uncles were ministers, so I was going to church before I was even born. When I was 6 years old, Dad was diagnosed with ALS, and one of the only memories I have of him is him sitting in a wheelchair at the front of the auditorium preaching his final sermon on death and hope. Dad died December 30th, 1980. I was 9 years old. The following weeks and months ushered in a very dark time for us. Mom struggled with addiction and she struggled with mental illness, and we were still going to church most Sundays, so there was a disconnect for me as a rebellious teenager that we were living one way, but people thought we were living another way, and I had a hard time processing that. So I moved out as soon as I graduated high school and moved to another state. But not long after, Mom and I tried to heal our relationship, and I came home and spent a weekend, and it was the first time we were ever able to sit and talk as adults. We had a great weekend together. I drove home on December 30th, 1990, back to Nashville, and it was, the anniversary of Dad's death. I tried not to think about it all day long, but as some of you may know, those anniversaries seem to hover like a dark cloud sometimes. That night I got a phone call that Mom had been killed in a car wreck, 10 years to the night of Dad's death. The weeks and months after that, I kind of spiraled. I walked away from a full scholarship to David Lipscomb University. I married a young guy I barely knew, and we had 2 babies. When I was 22 years old, I became a single mom. I had no education, no driver's license, no place to live, no car, and no family to come home to. The Lord took care of us, and in a few weeks we were in an income-based apartment on government assistance. I decided it was time to get serious about this Jesus that I had heard so much about. I knew church really well. I could quote scripture really well, but I hadn't met Jesus yet. So I went to a place that I decided would be the best place to go because none of the ministers in my family had ever preached there, and it would be a new start. So I went to Lone Oak Church of Christ. I'll never forget when I went. I was 22. I didn't fit in with the college age class. I didn't fit in with the young married class, so I went to the class with the older ladies, and they loved me really, really well. Somebody bought me a Bible during that time, and I read it, and I started getting to know Jesus and grace and the hope that we have. 4 years later, I met a single dad, and the night we got married, we had a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 7-year-old, and that has been over 20 years ago, and they were a good 20 plus years. So why am I telling you all this now? Is because we have heard some beautiful sermons this week about the resurrection of Jesus, but I don't want you to think that is the end of God's story. It was just the center of it. God is still working. God is still working in ordinary people who have messed up their lives, and God is able to redeem that. And that doesn't mean that you're going to come away without scars, because those scars are going to tell a story someday, and they may be able to heal somebody else. So I don't want you to think that you have to have a theology degree or you have to be able to speak Greek. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. It doesn't matter what race you are or how much money you have. If you are willing to proclaim the praises of the one who called you out of darkness, God will still work in your life, and your story, even though you may be a bit player, you will be allowed to be a part of God's bigger story. And that's what matters, right? About 1.5 years ago, I was hired on to be on the ministry team of Lone Oak Church of Christ, and to look back and see where it all started and what God has done, it is just amazing. And God does amazing things. He specializes in the impossible. So I want to encourage you, you may not be able to get out and go to your church building, and maybe that's a good thing, because with your phone and with your laptop, you are connected to half of the population in the world. And the church needs missionaries, and maybe God is giving us the opportunity to connect with people in a way that we never even thought possible. So I want to encourage you to record your resurrection story. Think about what God has done in your life and post it on social media. The news is going to be negative. We're all going to go back to our abnormal in the next few weeks, and we need hope. The world needs hope. The church needs hope. People need to know that God is still working. He's still here. The tomb is still empty. I love you guys, and I'm excited to see what God is going to do next.
Thank you, Paula, for sharing your resurrection story. We all have a story to share about how God has brought death from life in our lives, how God has done the impossible, and we invite you to share your resurrection story at the Wineskins Facebook page. I'm putting a link in the video description that you can click on. And in the comments, just film a video on your phone and put it in the comments and add it on as a video comment. We look forward to hearing how God's been working in your life. And take care. We'll see you next time.